What's up, everyone? So, check it out. Apple just did it, and they did it good. Okay? So, I just finished up watching the entire keynote, Apple's big yearly iPhone and Apple Watch refresh event. Went really well. Maybe they didn't really show off as much stuff as we'd hoped they'd show off, but you know, it's Apple. So they started off the keynote with this big roundup of uh, their services category. So things like Arcade, Apple Arcade, and Apple TV Plus. They showed off a really cool trailer for this brand new show that's going to be coming to Apple TV Plus, starring Jason Momoa, and it's called C. It's like this dystopian future kind of world where humanity has lost the gift of sight, and I don't know, just go watch the trailer. It actually looked really, really cool. Apple Arcade looked really awesome as well. They actually showed off this game from Annapurna International or Interactive, which is Annapurna. You might know them for making movies and stuff, but they have a branch of their company where they design and develop games. And they showed off a game called Sayonara Wild Hearts, and it looks really, really, really cool. It's like this weird. The people that work at the studio described it as like an interactive music video almost, and it basically is, because it's got music that kind of dynamically shifts depending on where you are at in the game. The gameplay mechanics look pretty simple and basic, but actually look like a lot of fun to play. I would actually download it, and I'm not even someone who actually gets a whole lot of games on my phone. Let's see what else I have to look. Notes, fury of typing this whole time leading to doing this right now. So it goes. All right. So the first product that they started talking about after they discussed their services thing was the iPad, and they didn't necessarily do what all the rumors have been talking about leading into this event. A lot of people were expecting them to kind of refresh the iPad Pro lineup and introduce like the new camera bump that everyone's been thinking about Apple integrating into the iPhone. They thought that they were going to upgrade that camera bump on the back of the iPad Pros and then re-release like a new version with like bumped up specs and stuff like that. But it didn't happen. What they did do though was they refreshed their old school. Well, like it's the one that hasn't been updated in the longest time, I think. So. But they updated the 9.7-inch iPad, brand new generation. They say it's designed to make the most of iPad OS, which is coming later this year. It looks pretty interesting. We'll see what happens there. The display now goes from being 9.7 inches all the way up to being 10.2 inches. So it's actually a larger Retina display now. That's pretty awesome. 3.5 million pixels. It includes the A10 Fusion chip, the A10 Apple Fusion chip. Which I guess makes it 2 times faster than the top-selling PC on the market, because they love throwing those little tidbits in there. It also has now the smart connector built into the iPad, which is the same technology that's in the iPad Pros, that allows like that smart keyboard folio case to work with the iPad. So now you can actually do that with their lowest end iPad, the 9.7 or 10.2 now inch iPad. It's also got multitasking, and iPad OS runs just as well on it, at least from the demos they showed, as it does on the iPad Pros, which came out late last year, November in 2018. Cool stuff. The battery is now a 10-hour lasting battery, which is pretty crazy. So they bumped up the functionality on that. It's also now completely 100% recycled aluminum case, which, everyone's into the environmental thing, and that's really cool. They kind of announced a similar thing with their iPhones going forward and their Apple Watches. So that's pretty cool. And that new iPad is going to start at $329. You can order them as soon as they finish updating their website, which might already be done. And they're going to start shipping on the 30th of September. So that's coming up pretty soon too. What else? They didn't discuss, well, we'll get to that later. Okay. Next up on the list after iPads and services were the Apple Watches. They announced a brand new series of Apple Watch, and it's pretty cool. The rumors that have been in the news for the last true. They're adding a brushed aluminum style case and they're titanium, natural brush titanium cases, and also ceramic cases. The ceramic one looked really nice. I remember when they launched the very first series of the Apple Watch, that was like one of the really high-end versions. It was like $10,000. Surprised the iPhone 8 is cheaper than the iPhone XR. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So the coolest thing, I think the biggest thing about the new Series 5 is it's always on. So now instead of having to like raise your wrist or tap your watch face in order to turn it on, I'm not actually wearing my Apple right now. Probably should put that on the video. Anyways, the watch face is always on. So the clock and whatever you have set as your main watch face will always be visible to you. It just kind of dims the display whenever your wrist is down or you're not looking at it. Whenever you turn your wrist over, it kind of brightens up the display. So that's really, really cool. They call it, it's this new technology they're using in the display, and they're calling it an LTPO display. Yeah, fun stuff. Guess people like the home button. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are still, when you think about it, it's kind of crazy because, I feel like technology for the most part has looked at something or like modern technology, the products that companies like Google and Facebook and Apple are putting out all the time, they seem very, at least they started off very geared towards kind of that midline age group, the big spenders and the people who are actually interested in technology. But now it's grown to a point where like everyone has an iPhone. It can't be super high tech necessarily for someone older or someone who's not as into technology but still wants all the great functionality that's available with it. So I don't necessarily like the home button. I've had Face ID and the swipe up from the bottom of the screen thing for years now, and I actually really love it. So I'll never be going back. So the Series 5 Apple Watch, it also says it also has a 18-hour battery life. It's also got now a built-in compass, so you can actually add this little application to the watch face, your main watch face of the compass, which actually looks really cool. And it shows everything, like elevation and incline and just everything. It was insane. They've also updated the emergency service or emergency SOS part of the functionality of the Apple Watch. So now any model that has cellular connectivity, any of their cellular Apple Watches, can, sorry, I'm trying to read comments and I'm also trying to make a speech. So the cellular models now can all have international calling built into that SOS feature. So like in the past, say you're injured, your watch brings up the prompt to initiate or contact emergency services, and you initiate that. Now what it can do is say you have a family member who's abroad, or say you're abroad in a different country for a certain amount of time and something happens to you, it can actually make that international call back to the US or out to any other country from the US, which is really cool. I spent a lot of time living overseas and my family working in America or vice versa. And so I think that's a really cool feature. Something I never even thought about, but that was a really cool move on their part. Also, the Apple Watches, as I said earlier, they're completely 100% recycled aluminum cases. And yeah, those titanium cases, which looked really nice, they're brushed, so they're not that super shiny. They're not like the stainless steel band, but they look really, really nice. So do the ceramic cases. If I were to get any of them, it'd probably be that white ceramic one because it just looks, I don't know, very cool. No, so you can't call emergency services without data. So it only works on the cellular version of the Apple Watch. So only the Apple Watches actually have that eSIM built into them, and you don't have to have them paired to your phone in order to make phone calls or send texts or stream music or whatever. But so like my Apple Watch that I have, it's not the cellular version, so I won't be able to take advantage of that. It's also not the newest version of it. So I don't know if that's just a software feature or if that's something that's built in on the hardware. I'm sure we'll learn more and more about it as people start posting their roundups and everything. I just figured I had to jump on it as quick as I could because I prepped for a while on doing this, so just wanted to do it. Again, also, seeing as I'm a brand new channel, I'm gonna be, in the future, I wanna be doing some more podcast type review and roundup type videos. I want to try and do some live podcast streaming and have us on Apple Podcasts, and I'm trying to start that up pretty soon. But yeah, in the meantime, this is the first video. So the prices for the new Apple Watches are going to start at $399. That's for the low base, like entry-level model. So that's just GPS, no cellular, and aluminum cases. And then orders start today. So you can order them right now. They'll be in stores on September 20th, just like the iPads and the iPhones. And now it seems like they've discontinued Series 4 of the Apple Watches, but they're keeping Series 3 in line, and that's going to be their new like entry-level, low-cost version. And those are going to now start at only $199. So that's pretty awesome. Also, one thing I noticed, they do a lot of these videos throughout their keynote and to show off their products in like a more, cinematic kind of way. And I could have sworn that for the Series 5 video, the whole like it tells time video, which I'm sure will be posted very soon on YouTube by Apple, I'm pretty sure it's Michael Cera that narrated it. We'll see what happens. Well, that's what my friend told me. About what? About how you can call emergency services without data? Oh. Well, maybe the basic functionality of it's possible without a cellular device. I don't know though if the national calling for the emergency services will work without any data. I would imagine you have to be connected to some kind of network in order to make a phone call. But who knows? What else? Oh, really cool. They brought out their new chief of retail or their new VP of retail towards the end of it, since Angela Ahrens is gone now. And she was actually discussing, she brought up a really cool idea that they're going to be utilizing in all of their stores starting pretty soon. With Apple Watches, the way that it's been set up in the past is when you purchase an Apple Watch, it's kind of like a set. So it comes with the actual Apple Watch module and then the band. And what Apple's done in the past is they kind of match up bands to watches, and then they've kind of like just put those out as a set. So when you buy the watch, you get a specific band with it too. So you haven't been able to do it like completely customizable or pick which band you want with which case you want. But now they're actually going to let you do that with the Series 5. So they're calling it the Apple Watch Studio. If you go into the Apple stores starting, I assume, on the 20th, you'll be able to actually mix and match cases with bands yourself in the store and then buy that exact set. So that's a really cool thing. I always wondered why they didn't do that, so I'm really glad they are going to start bringing that up. What else? Also related to the Apple Watch and services, they talked about some new research studies that they're going to be doing, 3 new research studies. One of them is called the Apple Hearing Study. It's going to start looking at how sound affects your long-term hearing health. So that's pretty interesting. We know that from their last keynote, the WWDC keynote, they talked about that new hearing feature that's going to be built into the Apple Watches, where it'll like warn you if you're in an environment where there's really loud noise that could potentially like damage your hearing over time. So that'll be interesting to see how that study goes. They're also doing a women's health study utilizing that new menstrual cycle tracker app built into the Apple Watch. And they're going to use information from that if you sign up for it to screen for health issues. And then also a heart and movement study, which will use like heart data and movement data for this similar kind of ideas. They partnered with the American Heart Association on that, though, so that's pretty impressive. They're going to be putting out a research app a little bit later this year, is what they said, and that research app is going to allow users with iPhones or Apple Watches to sign up and participate in their research studies that they do, which is pretty interesting as well. What else? Let's get to the iPhone, because that's the one. So before we even get started on it, one thing that I thought was really funny, it's weird that the Apple Watch isn't even the same price as the iPad. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of weird that a lot of them are as cheap as they are. You know, like my dad just upgraded his phone maybe a month ago to the XR. He got the baby blue or powder blue back XR, and I mean, he loves it, but he paid full price for that phone. And then now, less than a month later, Apple debuts brand new iPhones, and now they're still selling the XR, but the price of it dropped to like $699, I think it said in the keynote, so $700. So it's pretty crazy. They're definitely, you can tell that with all the rumors surrounding them and all the earnings reports and stuff they release, where their products categories are kind of stalling, and now services are becoming a much bigger part of their ecosystem and of how they make money. You can see them starting to try and dive in and really trying to have like categories that fit all kinds of different people in any bracket out there. So I mean, you saw it with the iPad, they're doing it with the Apple Watch now, and it's been that way with the iPhone. That was kind of their flagship product that they started trying that out with. And they took it even further this year, actually, with the 11 and the 11 Pros, because now they're actually calling them Pro iPhones. So they're kind of starting to go with like a naming scheme similar to what they did with the iMacs and the Mac Pro. But it's funny the way that they discussed it too, because Phil Schiller came out to discuss the 11 Pro models, and he talked about how they're great for pros and great for people that want a bunch of cool stuff, a bunch of the highest technology or need it for their business or for their job. And then he also said, though, that it's great for just anybody who wants to have the coolest stuff, who just wants to have the most up-to-date iPhone, which is true. But I mean, I just hope that they don't separate their features and functionality and performance across the board so much so that even people who are big Apple fanatics won't be able to afford getting those high-end products. They seem to have already done it with the Mac Pro, but at the same time, big studios that need a Mac Pro, a machine that powerful, I assume have the money to drop on it. So they announced the new iPhone 11 Pro and the new 11 Pro Max and just the 11. So they have three brand new phones were released, and craziest thing is they have like 5 or 6 colors now. They're offering these interesting color options. We'll see how people talk about them. The 11s, they still have that molded back on them. It's still glass, but they go with those like lighter, more baby colors or powder colors. And now they have this green color, which kind of looks like pistachio, almost kind of like the wall behind me right now. Midnight green, yeah, thank you. There you go. And then what did they also have? That's for the 11 Pro, though. That midnight green I kind of liked, actually. That one's nice. But with the 11, they also have this new green. They didn't call it pistachio, but to me, it looks like pistachio ice cream or something. It's like the midnight green, but not as deep. It's a little bit lighter in color. And then for the 11, they also have this yellow color, a purple, a red, and then a white and black version of the phone as well. And then, yes, the Pro is the stainless steel band instead of the brushed aluminum with a single piece of glass on the back, which was probably one of the coolest things that they talked about in the keynote. The whole backs of the phones now, including the camera bumper, are all milled out of one piece of glass. So it's this 3-dimensionally engineered piece of glass. It looks really crazy because the bump is completely see-through except for where the actual lenses sit in it. So like where there's components like the LED flash and the microphone that's on the back, they kind of look like they're floating within the glass almost. That looked really, really cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That you could trade in your iPhone and get the 11 Pro for cheaper than the XR. That's pretty crazy. My plan, I've had the iPhone X now for 2 years, and I'm wanting to upgrade. What I'm wanting to do is trade this in. This, now that they've announced brand new phones today, the trade-in value of these phones might drop a little bit, but I'm still expecting somewhere between $300 and $400 trade-in value for an iPhone X. So I want to send this in to Apple, get the trade-in value, and then it drops the price of even a Max down to $700, which would be pretty equivalent to the price of the XR, which my dad has. So it's pretty crazy. What else? Let's go over more on the iPhone 11. So the performance, pretty crazy. They announced a brand new chipset. It's called the A13 Bionic chip. And they seem to be pushing even more on machine learning stuff. It has new machine learning accelerators built into it. and they had their lead chip architect or engineer come out and talk about the performance behind the chip. It was actually really interesting to listen to. He said that their CPU is now capable of performing 1 trillion operations per second, which is just like, what, you know? Also, they've done more work in natural language processing, person occlusion and AR, all kinds of stuff that's geared towards developers, people that are creating really awesome stuff. I think natural language processing could be something really big. Also, the big other feature that they discussed was it's much more power efficient. Their new chip is much more power efficient. Still uses that same 7 nanometer process that they used for the A12 chips, but now it's just a 2nd generation version of that. They said it packs 8.5 billion transistors onto that chip. That's like mind-boggling. It also has 4 highly efficient CPU cores that can regulate efficiency throughout the chip. And it says that all cores are up to 20 times faster now. So it's pretty crazy. Also, the battery was really impressive. They said with the battery, it has 4 more hours of battery life now than the XS does, and that the Pro Max, the 11 Pro Max, has up to 5 more hours of battery life. And probably the coolest thing that they announced, at least to me, maybe it seems lame, but they're including their fast charging 18-watt adapter now in the box, standard when you buy an iPhone. So now, in order to utilize fast charging, which they have on the iPhones, you don't have to go out and buy a whole separate charging brick or USB-C Type-C cable in order to actually fast charge. Really cool, finally, kind of long time coming, should have happened a while ago, but whatever. The camera, that's their biggest thing right now. All kinds of new stuff with the camera. It's now got 3 lenses. Yep, it can. Yeah, they discussed that. One of the coolest things, actually, one of the best demos that I think that they showed off, probably one that I assume will be talked about very much in the days to come, is Filmic Pro. They had Filmic Pro and Sean Baker, who's the guy who made the Tangerine movie, and another film that's come out since then. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But he shot the theatrical trailer for Tangerine completely on an iPhone, and this was a few years ago. You might remember it if you follow Apple. Like, it was big news at the time. But he's partnered up with the company that produces Filmic Pro, which is just this live film recording kind of suite that you can get on your iPhone or iPads to, you know, get more in-depth settings with your camera, record stuff, set up different angles. It's an insane piece of software. But what they've done now, because you have that triple camera setup or triple lens setup on the back of the phones, on the back of the 11 Pros, they're actually allowing you to set 2 lenses to be active, or 3, at the same time, and you can actually record video through each lens individually at the same time. So, for example, as a filmmaker, if you wanted to have a wide shot, and then a close-up of a character, right? You can actually set both of those frames up in the one iPhone and record both of them at the same time, which then makes 2 separate files that you can then edit individually. That's insanely good idea. I've never even thought about that before because, I mean, it's, I guess, never been possible before, but that was probably the coolest thing that I've seen. You know, it can also utilize the front-facing camera, and one of the big use cases they talked about for it in the keynote was for documentarians and journalists who now will be able to set up a camera right between, hold up a camera right between them and the subject they're interviewing, record the subject through the rear camera, even record multiple different shots through the rear camera of their subject, and at the same time record video through the front-facing camera of them asking questions for their reactions, for their cutaways, whatever, and it'll record all that footage at the same time. That's really cool. That'll actually be a game changer, I feel like, in filmmaking, especially in like the modern technology regarding filmmaking and doing it all mobile and on the go and having all that power in your pocket. So that's pretty cool. Pricing, the iPhone 11 is going to start at $699. The iPhone 11 Pro is going to start at $999, and the Pro Max is going to start at $1099. Pre-order starts this Friday, so that's 3 days from now, and then they're going to begin shipping on September 20th, just like all the other new products they announced. I mean, you know, there were a lot of things that I feel like they could have discussed and didn't, but you know, people were thinking they might announce new iPad Pro models, which I was really hoping for. I was hoping, since they're going to announce these new camera bumps, they would integrate all of that into a new iPad Pro model, release an iPad Pro model. But they're probably just going to wait until the beginning of the new year. These Apple tags. I don't know if anyone knows. There's a company called Tile that's been producing these little like RFID tracking tabs. See new Blair Witch with the new iPhone? Yeah. Oh yeah. That's totally possible. Why not, right? I mean, yeah, wouldn't be as scary. But okay. Yeah, one of the really cool things about the camera too is now they've brought slow-mo recording to the front-facing camera, and another thing that I doubt anyone's really thought about, but they've added it. And exactly, see, it wouldn't be scary because you'd be able to see in all the dark corners of the shack in the woods. It wouldn't be as shaky. It would look like a commercial. So, yeah. But they've added this slow-mo functionality to the front-facing camera, so now people can actually take slow-mo selfies, which they showed a little ad for it that was actually pretty funny. I liked it. But yeah, and yeah, they could totally, you know, seriously, it's insane what people have at their disposal in their hands now all the time, or in their pocket, you know. I mean, really, especially for people that are into filmmaking, or broadcasting, or, you know, photography and music creation, a lot of the creative side of life, people can really get a lot out of these phones now. It's insane, you know. I mean, I remember getting my first camcorder when I was a kid, and it was when I still needed to get tapes, mini DV tapes, to put into the side of the camcorder. You'd have a FireWire cable, you'd have to jack it into your computer, and then you'd have to like rewind the tape all the way to the beginning of the tape and then just play it in time in order to import it into your computer. And now it's like, you know, you can shoot a video, edit it, post it within 5 minutes from your phone, you know, without waiting for anything. It's insane. It's unbelievable. We don't know how great we really have it now. So, you know, that's how it goes. So with those Tile devices, they found references in the 13 beta that the new Find My app, which I have on my phone. I don't have the Tile tab. Right now it's a Me tab, but I assume that Me stuff is like a placeholder for when they actually launch it. This is the new Find My app. So it actually shows all of your devices everywhere that you are. The layout's just much nicer. You still have the option to like play sounds or report it as a stolen device if you want to, right there, or deactivate it and erase it, whatever you want to do. But so they're thinking that Apple is going to release these little products that you'll be able to attach to any device that you have, like keys or a wallet, or put on your iPhone even, your AirPods, something like that, and you'll be able to track them if you lose them. So it's a really good idea, and they seem to, the rumors that have been coming out about it seem to make it look like it might be quite a bit better than what Tile has to offer, just because of the technology they're working into it. There's a new form of Bluetooth, I think it's like Bluetooth 5, that they're going to be putting into it, which allows like, just apparently it's like 100 times more precise in gathering location than its predecessor. So that'll be kind of cool to see. There have also been all of these like glyphs and icons found in the iOS 13 code where it's like a red balloon, and they've seen instructions that tell people to move your phone around in a room until a red balloon appears. And people think that basically what that balloon is it'll be an icon that will be placed over in three-dimensional space and augmented reality, over wherever your marker is or whatever item it is you've lost and you're trying to find, and then that way you can direct yourself to it a lot easier. So yeah, that'd be a good idea. Make a charging dock like a keychain. It's not a bad idea. Bill, you should get on it. what are you doing? You have all these great ideas. I think you should do it. I really think you should. What else? So they didn't announce that. They didn't update the iPad Pro. Then, like, the most sketchiest of rumors were talking about them potentially debuting their version of their AR glasses that are just super heavily rumored. That's probably the thing I'm looking forward to the most from them. But nothing on that, so that probably won't happen until next year, maybe. Lowell's still in high school. Well, then, man, you've got ideas ready for when you get out of high school. Finish it up and then put that thing on Kickstarter. Why not? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll have you at one of their keynotes one day, and you'll be showing off some product that you've created in partnership with Apple. So, yeah. What else? I mean, it was kind of, what they always bring up. You kind of always expect leading into these events, hyped up and talked about. I really think, I really think that Apple kind of leaks this information on their own a little bit leading up to events. I think it's a way for them to kind of tame expectations, because it's funny that a month ago when these first renders of the new iPhones started to show up all over the place and had this big squared camera bump on the back, everyone hated it. Everyone was talking about how horrible of a design choice it was. I even didn't like it because it had 3 lenses, but it was a squared bump out, so it looked to me like not uniform in a weird way. But over time, more and more of those kind of images and renders got released and leaked. And then now come to the day of the keynote, and when they announce the iPhone and they show the camera bump, everyone applauds. So I think they know more than they let on, obviously, as Apple. Another, though, interesting thing that I noticed from the keynote, I don't think they showed the front of the iPhone 11 a single time in the whole keynote. I don't think they showed it a single time. Every single image, even in the advertisements that they showed, it seemed to me like it was always facing down, or it was always facing directly at you, like the back of it was facing at you. I don't know why that is. I don't know if they just really didn't want to show off the front of it because they haven't changed anything and they know people were going to wonder if they've removed the notch or made the notch smaller, but they didn't, and so they probably just didn't want to bring on any unwanted answer or questions. Yeah, exactly. That's true. Anything that they do, a lot of people still buy it. They've kind of solidified themselves as I feel like they kind of have this. Although they're the biggest out of anyone, I feel like they try to play on this kind of underdog aspect, I feel like they still, they always try to come off as this innocent and very pro-consumer kind of company. They always seem to try and advertise things, very expressly about privacy and about security and about fun and creativity, I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, it works for them. It works for them. And honestly, I wouldn't be here doing this video if I didn't love Apple, But yeah, I mean, it goes without saying. There was an interesting article a few years ago. I can't remember what publication put it out, but talking about Apple's marketing strategies and they got this unrestricted access into their marketing group and the people that develop advertisements and come up with product release plans and timing of releases and schedule the keynotes and everything. It's really insane. I'm sure you do now. Yeah, let's go. Let's see what it looks like on the website now. Because I was refreshing it 4 or 5 times right after it came out, and it still hadn't been updated. Yeah, so here we go. I still don't see the front, though. I mean, I'm sure once you get to the actual learn more and everything, you see the front. But even the photo that's at the very top of their website is just the camera bump. And the graphic that loads when you click on the iPhone is the camera bump. It's interesting how important cameras have become in selling a phone. You know, it's really insane. Look, literally, literally every picture so far that I've seen is of the camera bump. First picture and graphic that loads on the Pro website, back of the phone, camera bump. And then there was Pro, their marketing words, and then 3 pictures of the back of the camera or the back of the phone, and then another picture of the back of the phone, and then you keep going down, and it's the 3 lenses just spinning, and then another image of the back of the phone, highlighting the 3 different lenses, showing the different angles you can take on the phone. Finally, once you get to the image where it's showing off the actual UI of the new camera app. I mean, I really think that people were expecting them to remove the notch. I wasn't. I know that it seems to me that next year is going to be the real big year for an actual overhaul in the design and everything, the look of it. I just have a feeling it's going to take some time. But I wonder about that too, because you know they've got to be 5 to 10 years ahead of what they release. You know, they've got to be working on products right now that are 5 years out from ever seeing the light of day, if not longer. And you know, I wonder sometimes why companies take such incremental steps. You know, with updating their stuff. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like, it's just a beautiful sight every time. You can't help but feel like you want to buy this phone when you're on their website. It's insane. Really, really cool stuff. So, yeah, I mean, they announced pretty much everything that we expected them to announce. Brand new iPhones, a couple of new watch models, a whole new series of Apple Watch, a new iPad or an updated iPad, and pretty much it. Yeah, exactly. They really wanted to sell the new design. I agree. I mean, there's just something about seeing 3 lenses on the back of a phone that people are going to instantly be drawn to, right, and be attracted to. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure they're going to sell a buttload of them, as they always do. I'm excited. I may think about upgrading to a 11 Pro Max. I've just had the iPhone X for the longest time, so it's like the smaller screen size. I'm really interested to see what the larger screen size would be like, so kind of want to try that out at some point. This was kind of just a really quick, antsy roundup video for the keynote. It was a lot of fun to watch. It's always interesting because Apple's just an awesome company. It's a lot of fun. They're a great brand to be behind. Yeah. I mean, honestly, 2 years ago when this came out, everyone was like, how the hell can they ever expect someone to pay $1,000 for a phone, you know? And then now 2 years later, it's normal already, you know? I don't think, you know, and then on top of that, carriers and Apple themselves always offer these you know, payment plans, or, you know, the trade-in stuff that we were talking about earlier. So that kind of helps them out too. It cuts down on the cost. I honestly think if you have a carrier and you're on a contract with the carrier, if you do like one of those up next kind of programs, where, you know, you basically pay your phone off over 2 years in payments, but halfway through that point, once you paid off half the phone, you can upgrade it. Seems like honestly the best way to go. Really, the price of a phone now, I feel like isn't as much of doesn't make as much of an impact on your decision of whether you're going to get it or not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So that was pretty much it. I'm going to jump off here so I can get started on an actual like decent video to post about all of this stuff. Again, this is my very first time doing anything on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching. Bill, Really appreciate it. Thank you for all your comments and for talking me through this. I appreciate it a lot. If you're interested at all, please just subscribe to my channel. Turn on notifications. I'll be uploading some more videos or some better made videos here in the next couple days. Thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate it. I'm gonna keep going with it. Maybe one day I'll be like MKBHD, because that's the dream for everyone at this point, right? All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and long live Apple. Okay. Bye.